seagulls follow the shore, it's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you.
And as we say now in my country, they brought the bus and they left the bus in front of the goal.
And the guy's talking absolute nonsense. Never heard so much rubbish in my life.
Normal men.
What do you mean, normal men?
We're just innocent men.
I'm telling you, don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Yes, it's the open mic night. It's just a wee play on words. Don't worry, I'm not going to start singing Wonderwall or anything like that. Do you know what I mean? It's just, sorry, David. You got your guitar ready, son. I've been out all day with the dog, and I just thought, do you know what? I fancy revving up the bus, and it's just great. It's just single life, mate. I can just do what I want when I want. I'm just like, why not rev up the bus on a wee Sunday evening? I was going to do a wee S-Express of my own, but David messaged me, and he was feeling that way. He just had a wee itch to rev up the bus as well. So between us, we've got our keys in the ignition, and we are ready to do a wee open forum sort of night. You know, a wee bit like the TNF, you could say. We've not got anything specific to talk about. We're going to be shooting the breeze. It's going to be a laid-back chat. Anything Celtic related, any Celtic subject matter from previous years, from current, it could be hypothetical, it could be anything you want. We are going to discuss them. The TNF's predominantly a present day sort of forum, if you know what I mean. This one, you've got poetic license, as Mark Kearney likes to say a lot, the judge. Poetic license to throw any wee talking point you want at the bus. It's an open mic night. Get your voice heard in the chat, and we are going to talk about it. David Logue, brilliant Sunday Blether this morning, mate. Loved it. I look forward to now watching that. That was an idea I had months and months ago. In fact, about a year ago now. I was like, Sunday morning's a good slot for the pod. Do you know what I mean? Nobody does one then. I know sometimes we play at 12, and that's always going to affect it. But young Regan was hosting it for a while. That became a bit tricky for him, which is fine. You've stepped in. Suddenly now it's going from strength to strength, mate. And obviously we still get Regan's contribution every Sunday, as well as the judge and Phil. It's a really settled lineup on a Sunday morning. You enjoying that on a Sunday morning? I know sometimes it can be tricky with a hangover, but you quite enjoying the hosting role now?
I absolutely love it, mate. It's been great. I really, when you put it forward to me about about hosting the show, at first I was a bit like, I don't know. But then when you gave the reasons why Regan was unable to host it as often anymore, of course he was still going to be a part of the show. I just kind of thought, fuck it, why not? And that's why I give Regan the name, the face that runs the place, because we all know that Regan is the main man on the Blether. So he is the face that runs the place, and it's just quite ironic that we don't see his face on the screen, which is a little bit of a play of words as well. But no, I do really enjoy doing it, and like you said, we've got a steady lineup now. We've got the same guys on pretty much every week when we can. Obviously, sometimes life gets in the way, hence why the judge wasn't able to be on last week. But even with his really busy schedule he has at the minute, he managed to get on this morning, which is always great because everybody loves the judge. And of course, we've got Mr. Friday Night Phil McGinley on, obviously with the Bustalgia. So yeah, it's just good fun, mate. I actually think I prefer giving almost hosting the show and letting the guys go off the subjects that I'll maybe pick in the morning. Than actually giving my own opinion, to be honest. But no, it's been good. Yes, I was hungover last weekend, which is a rare.
Funnily enough, I don't judge people for hangovers, David. I never have.
I was sitting there going, it was a mess last Saturday. And I'm sitting there going, I've got the Sunday Blether tomorrow. What am I going to do? We're all good. It was all good. I remember I messaged you right after. I went, how the fuck do you manage a post-match pitch and then do the Monday on the I'm like, how do you manage it? But years of experience.
I don't know how I've done it sometimes, man. Honestly, I've been in conditions on the PMP, then doing the Monday Club, dying. Do you know what I mean? I've had to buy 12 Coronas just to get through the Monday Club. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, this is a bad state of affairs. There's loads of folk who's jumped in on the bus already as well. All that good stuff. Remember, do hit like if you want this to be a busy open mic night. By all means, crack that like button, and we will absolutely get this as busy as we possibly can. Obviously, if you want to share it on your socials, that's always helpful. If you want to become a Bhoycie Bus member, like John Logue, I'll star your comment the new John. Like Monty, like Balls to the Walls, like Paul84, good to have you on it. Like Monty again, why not? Scott Howe, and of course, our favourite member of the bus, Bob Mick. Yeah. Bob. So yeah, we've got a few wee talking points already coming in, which is always good to see. Kevin McGinley, though, first, that's the best comment. He just says the Bhoycie Bus is the best. We know. I'm only kidding. We don't know.
We are aware. We are aware.
Andy Logan says we have a team and a podcast to be proud of. Hail, hail. That means a lot, Andy. I appreciate you saying that. We've got loads of wee talking points coming in. There are a few curveballs. I know what you mean. When you're on the back foot, I used to have that when I was on the other pod at times. I was like, fucking hell. Like, any question could be coming at you. You've got to kind of think on your feet when you're hosting. You can
play around with it, mate. It's good fun.
And you get a bit naughty with it, don't you?
Aye, well, I was like this at school as well. I'd always leave it to the last minute to get to do the homework and get the essay written for at college or whatever. So and it's kind of become like this. I was always at first. I'm always like pure go balls deep right for the start. I'm going to sit there and I'm going to work out what I'm going to do over the week. And then, but as it's going on, I'm sitting there lying at I wake up at 8 a.m. on a Sunday for some reason, and I'm just going to go, right, what are we going to talk about? And I'll get straight onto Google and just start just finding, and I find myself going down me rabbit holes, like today finding out that Arthur Johnson is a keen artist. I don't know, I was like, how did I end up on this? But I was like, okay, well, I'm going to stick that in the show this morning, just because. Let's just throw a curveball in there. Let's talk about Arthur Johnson's charcoal pens, because that's what we all want to talk about.
I don't know if you've seen it. I commented on the show this morning about Alistair Johnson. Do you know he's also leading the charge for the Canadian footballers right now are in dispute with the Canadian FA over pay or whatever, and I think he's basically he's the go-between. He's the one who's fronting it all. He's a young man, but see, to be fair, he can talk. Do you know what I mean? So I totally get it. Do you know what I mean? But that's so. Just another. You were talking about. I think it was Mark said, you could see him being a captain, if not at Celtic, but somewhere. That's just another wee example of his leadership qualities. He's apparently. It was said on Radio Clyde yesterday. Mark Wilson it was that broke that story. So we'll take it with a pinch of salt. But anyway, we've got a few wee good talking points coming in. Loads of folk are jumping on this patch of McCaughlin. He's buzzing. I love it. A big thanks to everyone who's bought a Bhoycie Bus shirt, by the way. We're getting out a few orders over the weekend, David. 40 squid. If you're wanting one, we are putting in the order soon. You will see us podcasters. I hope you can see my inverted commas at the side there. but we'll all be wearing ours in the next week or two. So maybe that'll be the final spike we'll get in sales, and then we will get them out and about to those who've already put your orders in. I can't thank those who have enough, because it means the world. Just email me, crookedarm@ymail.com. I can send you the payment details, or just PayPal it to, again, crookedarm@ymail.com. Right. Oh, and buy a pie for Pie Sports. Tasty 12.5% discount. I'm going to do another order, by the way. I'm missing them.
Oh, mate, I did. When you delivered them to the shop, it was a nice surprise, and the guys at the shop were just like, what's game for you? So people that don't know, I'm opening up a second location in Kirkcaldy, so I'm getting a lot of stuff getting delivered to the shop, whether it's like tools or like, paint or whatever. And this box comes and it's got piesports.com written over it, and the guys in the shop are like, what are you ordered for the shop? And I'm like, I've no ordered anything, guys, but wait till you see the treasures that's in this box. Was it opened up and they're like, why is there pies in a box being delivered? And I was like, just you wait. And I'm rattling off all the pies. I was like, steak and sausage. And everybody's like, can I take that one home? And I'm like, I suppose you could. I suppose so. So yeah, even the guys at Hard Barber are well onto the Pie Sports train now, or bus, perhaps you might want to call it.
Well, exactly. No, exactly. I like to keep you on your toes, mate. Send you a box of pies out of nowhere, mate, to your shop, just so you know he really is mental, that guy. Do you know what I mean? John Duncan says he's on the pies tomorrow. Good, John. Nothing wrong with that. Right, there's quite a few comments coming in, so we will start getting our way through them. Starred a few because Phil showed me how to do that. Only a bit
tech savvy.
Only about a month ago. Been doing this for fucking 15 months. I just looked at the star, never even clicked. You never click that you could click on it. Right, okay. Let's have a wee look at this one. Kieran McFadden. Just a nice wee easy one. Favorite Celtic kit that you own or that you owned? Now, it's difficult, right? Because I think kits had more iconic status when they lasted 2 seasons. Now there's it's like 3 kits and they only last 12 months. And I think they lose a wee bit of their memories. The memory box you're meant to open when you see a kit is because you've seen Celtic wear it considerable amount of time. Obviously, you'll always get that with the hoops. But the away kits these days, you only actually see Celtic wear them each under 10 times a season. So if you've got it for 2 years, you maybe see that just under 20 times, and they bring back more memories. Balls to the Walls comes in with one that means a lot to me, the 95-97 home kit. Remember the one that had the collar, and it was all green and white stripes? Van Hooijdonk, and had like the Celtic font and the green hoops in white. And they wore that for a couple of years. Cadete, Di Canio, etc. They all wore it. That was the first ever full Celtic strip I got. So that's a classic. I've got to say, I mean, obviously because we're pushing the Bumblebee, but the Bumblebee when it came out in the 90s was like, what the fuck? What is that? It was massive news at the time. However, I've got to say, I think the one I wore last night, in fact, on the PMP, the Nike one actually trumps that. I think that Nike Bumblebee is a belter in a way shirt. Any comment of mine, David?
Well, that's the one. Well, the one you're talking about there, that's the one that Robbie Keane was in the squad at that point, wasn't he? He was. I'm sure he was wearing that kit at one point. It's funny. Also, again, the Bumblebee CR Smith top. If I remember rightly, that was one, if not the first Celtic kit that my dad gave me. That one always comes to mind. Whether it was his own or not, I can't remember. I think it must have been about 1996, 97. So I was 6 when that was handed to me. And that one always stuck in my mind as one of the first shirts I ever wore. You can't not remember it. I mean, like you said, it's like it's so iconic, and it's a bit of a game changer in the whole footballing kit world, really, wasn't it? Like, it really was just so out there. So yeah, that's one of the ones that come to mind. One of my favourite kits I've owned is probably the one. Was it the one that was the home kit that had the tenants just slightly underneath the badge, the crest. I really like that one because I always enjoy getting the ones without the sponsor on the front. Just think they look really retro. So when that first came out, I just thought that was a belter of a kit. I really, really liked that one.
Well, Balls to the Walls comes in again. I'm not being biased on who I bring up in the comments, by the way. I liked the couple of comments he's made so far, because the black one from the 12-13 season, we were discussing this on Bustalgia on Friday. Catch up in the links below. We were saying that's 2012-2013 season, where it was the 125th anniversary. So it was like the thinner hoops, which we put on the Bumblebee kit that the bus is doing. The thinner green and white hoops, the black two-tone sort of black hoops with the tree colour. And then the other one was the white one with the white embroidery of Tennant.
Yes.
White embroidery at night with the tiny black collar. Those 3 kits as a hat trick of kits, that's the smartest I've ever seen Celtic release 3 kits in the same season. For the same season, I think that's the best collection I've seen.
So, boys, out of those 3 kits, right? Can you remember the squad relatively well?
Yeah.
What three players for each kit comes to mind when you picture those in your mind? Which 3 players?
So Samaras for the green and white thinner hoops, because I remember wearing the captain's armband, long sleeves. He just looked cool as in the Champions League. The Champions League crest there. Samaras with the long sleeves, the captain's armband on, the big long flowing hair. The black one, Gary Hooper, straight away.
Yep.
That's funny.
And what about the white one? What about the white one, mate? Kelvin Wilson. Kelvin Wilson comes to mind.
It's good. It's good.
I don't know why, but I just picture him straight away in that kit. It's just
Kelvin Wilson.
Big Kelv. Just quickly, I did, and again, it's a comment that we've already brought up, but Kieran, you'd asked me where I got the Napoli top that I had on Bustalgia a few weeks ago. I actually got it in a sports shop in whereabout was it? Well, not Napoli, Sorrento. It's totally went in my mind there. I should know that. It was where my honeymoon was, so I should know that it was in Sorrento. Sorry, babe. Yeah, I got it in a sports shop in Sorrento. They had loads of kits, but that one was specifically made as a sort of tribute to Maradona. So it comes with Maradona 10 on the back. And the Italian guy was so confused because I wanted to buy the Maradona top. It was between that top and it was between the Italian home top. And obviously they just won the Euros. And the guy's looking at me and he's so confused. He's like, why do you want this top as in the Italian top? And I was like, he goes, are you not English? I went, no, Scottish. And he went, that makes sense. And obviously I had a bit of a laugh at him at England's expense. And then, of course, I said, you aren't at the World Cup this year, are you? And he was like, no. I was like, well, welcome. This is how we feel all the time. So it was good though. But the one thing about those Napoli tops, it's what's it, Kappa that make them? They're skin tight, mate. Yep. They're skin tight. That one I've got on that sticks to me now. You've met me. I'm like 5'7" and I'm not exactly well built. I'm wearing that extra large, and it's skin tight. So it's mega long. It's really long, but it's like skin tight on me. But yeah, that's where I got that top.
20V comes in. Have you seen that? Apparently, Liverpool's away kit next year's green and white hoops.
Oh well, okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I've not seen that.
Monty, we are not discussing that tonight. Thank you. It's talking about the length of something else, mate. I seen a message from Monty earlier talking about Kansas Stella, so I don't know where that's going. Plunge McNugget wants to talk about match of the day. You just told us you wanted to talk about the players on the strips rather than the players plunge. Make your mind up. Match of the day. We briefly talked about it last night. I mean, it's a bit of a farce, David. Do you know what I mean? I think obviously all the presenters have revolted now, haven't they? And I was saying last night, the positive thing from not from our personal point of view, but I think the pleasing thing for me is I think audiences, like even tonight, there's over 100 on the bus right now, open forum, nobody even knows what we're going to be talking about, but they'd rather tune into that than the MSM now. People are moving over and their watching habits are changing. And I think, match of the day has just been caught in the past. Do you know what I mean? It's just left standing in the past where they still think they can control people's like thoughts and opinions on their own social media platforms. It's so past. And I think it's probably a rocket up the arse that they needed because they couldn't believe. I think they still thought they would have the buy-in from the public, where really I think the public and all their staff have kind of went, well, F you. Do you know what I mean? So I just think when you look at it, fan media and stuff like that we do, we're like a tiny wee part of it. But what we do, I think it's a more refreshing watch for a football fan now than watching stuff like that.
more appealing, I think, and it's more relatable for the fan of the club that obviously that they support. Match of the day, you're right, it is a farce. I mean, whether you agree or disagree with Gary Lineker's tweet and his point of view of the subject matter, which I'm not willing to discuss on here because we're not going to talk about politics, but that has now been lost. The whole subject of what he's talking about is far more important than the man tweeting it and what his opinion on it is, and it's almost become a bit of a deflection on that subject matter and why our news has been dominated by a ex-football player, national treasure down south's opinion on it is beyond me. But I do think that match of the day, the guys at the BBC haven't thought it through. They've thought, well, match of the day is such an important, integral part of British footballing culture that doesn't matter who's hosting it, people will watch it regardless. Which they didn't realise. To think what they didn't plan ahead for was the fact that, well, that's now instantly become a poison chalice. No pundit is willing to take that seat just now because regardless of what their opinion on Gary Lineker and his opinions are, they don't want the backlash. They're not going to take it. And as a viewer, personally, I don't tend to watch the analysis from Shearer and Ian Wright and Lineker or whoever's on. I'll tend to just watch the game and then fast forward it. And I think what they might find, which is the flip side of the whole thing, is they might find that their viewership might have skyrocketed last night because they got all they shown was the obviously the highlights, and it was like a 10-minute episode, 10-minute show. And they might go, well, maybe that's a format that we'll just have to go moving forward. But Gary Lineker will be short of media duties. I mean, look, you just have to look back at what happened with Jeremy Clarkson when BBC dropped him. Amazon picked him up quickly and basically went, and me and Phil were talking about this morning before we came on the show. Amazon just went, go and just make Top Gear on our format, and here's all the money you want in the world. I think Amazon could be a big player soon enough in the footballing world. We've seen it recently. They might just go, here, Gary, there's X amount of millions. Go make match of the day for us, but you can do it as you please, you know. So
it's been a huge.
They reap what they sow.
I agree with you on that. I totally agree with you that your dad comes in, David. I think this was earlier on. He says, "Open mic, great idea. What's your favourite Celtic moment in memory?" The one that sticks out for me, and I think it's mad because I don't know. It's just the first one that's coming to my head, really. I wouldn't say, is it the all-time favourite? I don't know. But on the road to Seville when we beat Blackburn away, that was like away from home in Europe. I've not known Celtic to do well in Europe in my whole supporting life. I'm like 15 years old now, and I'm like just at your peak obsession with the team and all that. That was like, it was just life was watching Celtic then. Do you know what I mean? And Blackburn being a club that were obviously, you know, top half of the English Premier League, big names like Andy Cole, Dwight York, etc. I see to go down there. Brad Friedel in goals had just won man of the match, and they'd done like a wee section on him on I think it was the Premiership. It was called. I think Match of the Day didn't have the rights. It was on ITV, and they'd done like saying, "Is this the best goalie in the Premier League?" And Henrik Larsson just dinks him with the outside of the boot. We win that one 2-0. Sutton scores the other. And it was like, fucking hell, we've not just like won away in Europe. We've beat like an EPL team I'm used to watching on a Saturday night with all these big hitters. And it's not just that, we've pumped them away from home. And that set the foundations for that run to the final that year. And I always remember just Souness being in charge of them. Their captain said, men against boys. And I always, the wee cat flying about behind you, it's all right. And I always just think that memory was so sweet. Like, oof, we are seriously, like, we're clicking here. Like, we're, you know, this is a team to be reckoned with. It was an amazing memory, that one, because not in a bad way, but I had a feeling we'd just get put out, right? Just because our European record in my lifetime up to that point was shit. And obviously we played them. We won 1-0 in the home leg, but we'd been terrible. They passed us off the park, to be honest with you. And just going down there to an English Premier League team, they all thought they'd beat us. They all didn't know if Henrik was world class. That was one of the debates, David, in between the two legs, even though Henrik scored the winner in the 1-0 win. And what the debates on the English media was, is he really world class or is he just scoring goals in Scotland? I'm like, oh my God, he just scored like 3 goals at the World Cup 5 months ago. What are you talking about? It's just so frustrating, stuff like that. And for Henrik, is this the best keeper in the league? Outside of the boot, dinks it right in front of the fans. It was a class win, that, and it was a real wake-up call that Celtic are back here, like, and we are going to be a European force under O'Neill. That would be mine. You've had plenty of time to think about yours now, David. Give us a wee insight.
It's a difficult question, isn't it? Because like so many just start flying into your mind. One of the ones that stand out for me was probably the Barcelona game. It was just obviously the 2-1. Obviously Tony Watt getting the winner. That was just one of the most surreal games of football I think anybody has ever watched. I mean, it was bonkers how little possession that we had, and I mean the team that we were up against, you know, they were the best team on the planet, like hands down.
They were talking about maybe ever.
Yep. I mean, just dominating European football, their league, the best players on the planet playing for them all at one time, and we somehow beat them 2-1. I just remember just completely losing my mind when Tony Watt put us 2-0 up, because it was just, and then you instantly quickly reality hits you again and you go, this is still the best team in the world, and there's like 10 minutes to play. They could easily bang in 5 goals if they tried hard enough, but of course Fraser Foster stopped that from happening. I mean, even the point Lionel Messi just scored to make it 2-1. And even it was like he'd even knew in his head, it was like, we're not going to win this game. I think Fraser Foster had worn them down so much that he barely celebrated when I think the only kind of celebration he did was, I'm sure his son was born just before that, and he did a sort of celebration to mark that. Another one that really is, again, it's not, I've told this, I think I've definitely told you this before on here, was when we were supposed to go and watch Celtic play in Invernescally Thistle, and the game was postponed due to the weather, the damage of the stadium, and my dad decided that, as we always say, Shy Bairn's getting his sweeties. He took us to the training ground. It was a bad field at the time, and somehow managed to convince the guy, "Is there any chance you can let us in to watch them train?" And of course he did. Well, Henrik Larsson wasn't. He was injured at the time. He had his broken leg at the time, so I didn't manage to meet him. But we met Mark Viduka. I'm trying to think who else was there. I specifically remember telling Reggie Blinker he was my favourite player, but I'd also told every player that they were my favourite player as they were signing a poster that we got from the match programme. Of course, it was just with a wee basic pen, and when I got home, I was like, you can't see them well enough. So I went and got a biro pen and I started going over the autographs. My dad lost his shit. Like, and I'm going, what? You can see them better. Like, it's safe to say, you look at, oh my God. Looking back on it, you're like, what an absolute moron. But hey, I mean, that quickly got pinned. He was absolutely furious with me. Spicy still speaks to me because of that. But yeah, that's one of my favourite, was just being in awe of all the players. And Mark Viduka was a bit of he wasn't too keen on waiting around for us to get a photograph.
Oh, I bet. Big Viduka. Don't call me Marco. Kevin McGinley comes in. He really wants Rangers in this Scottish Cup final. What about you, Bhoycie? I said it at the weekend. It is the weekend. I said it yesterday. But I'm really not fussed when we get them. If we get them, nobody cares. I'm all for it. I'm very confident that when it comes to getting the treble over the line, this Celtic team has the minerals to do so. The testicular fortitude to do so, you could say, David. Because I think at this moment in time, they don't want us in the semi. They want to get they want us in the final on a hope and a win. We have an off day. They don't want us to play us next. We don't care when we play them. We're the show in town. We're the draw no one wants. As for us, who we get drawn in the semi-final, not asked. Anytime. Bring them on. I'm the same as Charles Smith. He says, don't care. Bring them all on. I'm not fussed who we get drawn in the semi-final, and who it is we come up against in the final. I think I think it's us who they need to try and work out a way to beat. I think we know how to beat all the remaining teams, and I think, to be honest with you, I think the Celtic side compared with that Rangers side, I think there is folk don't like saying the word gap. I think there is a big gap in the quality between them. I'm not just saying that. I think they've put together decent results, very good results, some decent performances. But when it comes to facing us, I think that's a square that they'll not know how to circle.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I've spoken to a few Rangers fans over the weekend as they were. I always seem to get a good cluster of them all at once, and it's like, where are you all coming from? But every single one of them pretty much conceded the fact that the treble is ours, and they don't feel confident enough in their own team's ability to stop that from happening. It's only us that can stop that from happening by the way it's looking just now. Again, I don't really care when we play them. I'm confident that we'll just blow them away again. I think you're right. They have racked up good results. Maybe not best performances, but they have managed to. They've become more. I don't know. Stubborn? You could say in terms of their performances haven't been great, but they're still somehow managing to get through the games. You can also put that down to refereeing decisions. I'm sure we could go down a rabbit hole that way if you wanted to, but we'll get the judge on for that. But I don't think Mickey Beale is able to talk his way out of this one. I think it's trebles on for me.
Yeah, I agree with you, mate. We've got loads of different wee points coming, so cheers for that one, Kevin. Here's another one related to the Scottish Cup final. We'll keep it in tandem. I don't know what you're hearing. You're hearing voices in your head, David. You're on mute now.
Sorry, I muted myself.
You can't know how all this works. So you've been doing this a while now, David.
I do apologise. My screen just went black as well. I don't know what's happening. You're back, Will. I'm back.
I know.
Jeez.
Scott Brotherton comes in. Good to have you on the bus, Scott. Hope you're good, mate. And he said Scottish Cup is a must this year for Ange. The only one that he hasn't got domestically, of course. Does he stay when we win the treble? I'll give my take on that. I don't think he'll measure his time at Celtic on the domestic success other than the league titles. I think the trophies are obviously he's very much committed to winning them, but I don't think that would tickle his balls enough to go, oh, that's me leaving in the sunset, driving off into the sunset now, my work here is done. I think the yardstick he wants to be measured by, Scott, is Europe. And I think whilst he's had 2 European campaigns and a lot of plaudits, just not enough points as of yet. And I think he will be wanting at least one more shot, one more crack at the Champions League, if you like. And I think we're in for an exciting summer to see how Ange tools up this team for that. I think it could be a mad summer. That's a different talking point, I suppose. But Scott, for me, if we win the treble this year, I don't think it has any bearing on Ange Postecoglou's future, if I'm honest with you, mate.
No, I'm in total agreement with you there. I mean, he gets linked with every club that apparently is becoming available to him. Yet he bats it off as if it's just nothing to be even slightly interested in at the minute. He's got his eyes completely set on doing something at this club, and but the way we have operated in the last few years, the trebles were almost becoming numb to them. They were that common that it's almost Ange almost been like, well, I'm almost expected to get a treble at this club, so that isn't enough for him. You're absolutely right. I think he wants another crack at making a real impact at Celtic in Europe, and he obviously truly believes deep down that he has the capabilities and the squad and the club to do that, and I'm excited for it. The other thing is, if he does decide that it's time for him to move on, which hopefully is a long, long way away yet, it's going to be a big. It's going to have to be a big, big pull for him. He's not going to go to a club that's, like, there's Watford. Like, I know they're a championship side now, but that's Watford have now equalled the same amount of managers that West Ham have had in their entire history in the last, I want to say 10 years. I was reading
10 years.
today.
Aye.
Something absolutely mental. That I mean, that's the kind of market that he would be going down to, such an unsteady place that is the English league, whether it's the Championship or the Premiership. You know, he's going to have to go to a club that he can see, well, you're going to give me time to implement my style, to get my players in. He's certainly not going to leave mid-season. That's a guarantee. I can tell you that right now. That Ange isn't the kind of manager that would jump ship mid-season, and not because of any sort of honourable reason, or we thought that about Brendan because he's a fan, blah blah blah. But if Ange wants to give himself the best chance of getting his style of play over, he's not going to do it at a struggling mid-table English side or bottom of the team. But it's like, well, we have to be because he's got his way of playing, his style of football, his philosophy, and he wants to get that across. He'll want that time in the summer to identify targets and get that across. He certainly wouldn't be doing it mid-season, but I think he's here for I think he's here for the long haul, mate. I think he's got a project in mind and he wants to complete it.
I agree. We also need to look at what was the remit when Ange took the job, and what were the questions that he would have had for the Celtic board as well when they're doing the interview process. I know apparently it was a pretty short, pretty swift interview, but I'm sure he would have had sort of assurances as well. Like, look, what was it when he was taking the job, what was it that drew him to just, reclaiming the league title? I've got a feeling that what he was drawn to it was, I think he would have looked at Celtic, and I always say this, with the obsidiary eyes. He's sitting on the sidelines looking at a giant of a club, and he's going, how, they were in a final not that long ago, it's 20 years ago. What have they done since then? They beat Barcelona. They've had results sporadically in Europe that are, very much noteworthy. Three times they've been in the last 16 of the Champions League. And they've obviously appeared in the Champions League several times as well in the last sort of couple of decades. But how do we, what's been happening of late? Are they now celebrating qualifying for the Champions League? Because to me, that looks like a 60,000 seater stadium with, sold out season tickets every year. Even the name Celtic alone, a giant of a club. He was well aware of the club when he was growing up, as he says. I don't think he was much of a fan, but he definitely was aware of the size of the club. I think he's seen it as an opportunity to go, well, they don't do great in Europe. So even if I don't do great in Europe, but I overthrow the league, the league title that Rangers dominated that one season, I'm a success. And in Europe, I think he's got his eyes on that. I think he's going, it's an opportunity. There's a no-lose situation because we'd underachieved in Europe for so long, David, by the time Ange came in, that it was a no-lose situation. I don't think he will be satisfied with his job at Celtic until he has some sort of tangible success in Europe. Now, with that, my expectations are extremely realistic. This isn't me saying Ange expects us to reach semi-finals of the Champions League or any of this, but I think he would like a campaign where he's either got out the group stage of the Champions League, or if he's fell into the Europa League, made a dent in that, i.e. a semi-final, final sort of thing. And I don't think he'll be satisfied with what he's done in Europe so far. He'll obviously, and I don't want to say the word excuses, but obviously there's many reasons as to why his European, not the performances as such, but the points tallies and totals and things like that, or, the Bodo Glimt game haven't been quite there. We all know there's loads of reasons, a multitude of reasons for that. Next year's probably going to be where there aren't those reasons really to fall back on. The team's pretty much now completely yours. You've had autonomy in the transfer market for 4 windows by then. I think it's a time that I think Ange will relish another campaign in Europe. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what we do. Charles Smith comes in, he's saying, the Celtic board to tool Ange up this summer. If they don't tool him up, I think Terry said it yesterday, if they don't tool him up this summer, they never will. Everything's set in place. Everything's perfect for Celtic to make an assault on the top European trophy. Tournament, I should say. Are they going to make a claim to win that trophy? I'm not that deluded, right? But do I think Ange will be thinking, I know if we can play like that, but with a couple of extra additions, a couple of really sweet players in there that might cost proper coin, that Celtic side's performances in the group stage this season alone could have actually earned more points than what it did. So I think he'll be licking his lips at the prospect of another Champions League campaign. I think that's what excites him, David.
he was a very frustrated figure after every poor result in the Champions League. It was almost, when you look at the results, and we've just said there's multiple reasons as to why we probably didn't get the results that the performances deserved, but there was not one of them was ever said out loud by Ange at his press conferences. He, whereas when you could look back at obviously Gio's press conferences after their results, they were very much the excuses that we can't financially compete. Yeah, I wasn't backed. Yada. Whereas Ange was very much just frustrated in the fact that we had our chances and we didn't take them, and that for me has given him a taste of knowing, well, the results didn't back up the performances, but the performances were there. We just didn't take the chances, and I think he's sitting, as kicking ourselves, and so we should have been. The amount of chances we created that we didn't get better results. So I think he's had a taste of it, and he wants another crack at it, and he will fully believe in his system enough that, we are more than capable of getting results in that competition. We can't help it. However, Kyogo, the Champions League came a little bit too early for Kyogo this season. He just wasn't quite up and running on form. If the Champions League was now, I'd be more than confident Kyogo would be burying these chances that were created. However, that's unfortunately not how football works, and we play when the fixtures are there. And Kyogo and the likes have to be on the type of form that they are now to get those results in Europe. We can't miss those sitters, those absolute sitters that he missed, and not be punished for it.
Definitely. That's an interesting stat there from Antonios Voraias. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Antonios. He's saying 82 attempts on goal in the last UCL campaign and just 4 goals as the return. We're not that far off the pace as long as we're converting those opportunities, and you can't argue with that. But obviously, you can't keep leaking them at the other end as well. that's it's cutthroat at that level, and we've had that sort of we've had that integration season, if you like. Now it's going to be about right. We're ready for this now, the guys who are already there. And here's a couple of real gems, a couple of real proper players to come in and supplement what we've already got. That's what I'm hoping for anyway. I don't know why I squeaked with my voice there, but that's what I'm hoping for anyway. Patrick comes in. He's having a wee look over at the neighbours. He's looking over the fence a wee bit, David, and he's saying, do you think it's a good thing that they're winning all these games against the others at the moment? Does it kind of give them false hope for next season? I'm thinking, well, I get what you're saying, Patrick. It's quite a loaded question, that, because what you're obviously saying is, could the board effectively turn around to Michael Beale and go, well, mate, you won, let's say come the end of the season, you won 20 out of 23 league games. But you don't really need that much of a revamp, do you? You wait there now. We don't really need to be pushing ourselves further into debt to try and keep you going, because actually, the results are there. That's what you can get out of this squad. And they might not be as ambitious because that could have put them in that false sense of security. You never know. But I think the results that they've pulled out the bag have been good. There's no doubt about that. I think the majority of their performances have been sketchy. I think there's going to be real upheaval with the amount of guys out of contract at the end of the season. Now, call me paranoid if you want. I think that's a far, far bigger story if that's Celtic. And by the way, just one of the big differences as well, I think it's a massive story on the Celtic podcasts as well, because we always look at, I think a lot of the podcasts can take a pat on the back that way. I think Celtic fans, it's natural for us to look at, our own garden and sort of critique it. Do you know what I mean? Whereas I think they kind of just shut their eyes and go, la, 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 it's not happening. And the media are kind of just, compliant and all that, really, to be honest with you, David, because when I look at 12 players out of contract, I think it's 12 anyway, Bob can correct us in the comments, and I look at the fact a lot of them were like starters in their run to that UEFA Cup final last season, things like this, and you go, that's kind of disarray that you're in almost, if you end up finishing this season trophyless, all these guys leaving on free transfers, no money really to go out and invest in a whole new squad. you know, the results right now, I don't know, Patrick, he's talking about changing a quarter of his squad. I don't know. I think that there's the overhauling that they'll need to do will be far greater than that. And one thing I tweeted about it the other week, it got quite a lot of traction. And I said, you know, I think this whole, you know, flip a whole squad thing, Ange, because Ange has done it, it's now this go-to, like, that's what we'll do. We'll just rebuild the whole squad. It's very unlikely you will have that sort of success that Postecoglou had. And bear in mind, that summer we got £30 million in the bank for Ayers and Eddies, which they ain't going to get for their departing first-team regulars. They're not going to get any money for those guys.
Oh,
you know,
yeah,
that's what we used to then do that rebuild. And we used an extensive, and you know, a very expansive, I should say, scouting market, all done by the manager. They don't have that with Mickey Beale. We know what markets he'll know, and it will be Championship, League One, maybe the odd EPL player who's completely on the fringes or coming through the ranks that they can get on loan. That's going to be their market, because they don't have the knowledge of like a J League, for example. And I also think when you're buying from down there, you buy everyone at a premium. And it might not be Todd Cantwell's cost a lot in a transfer fee, 200 grand. I wonder what his wages are though to get him up the road. You know, probably 20 grand plus a week. We're not paying that for our key players right now. Some of them, you know, I dare say the likes of Jota, Cal McGregor, etc., are excessive of that. But you get the feeling Hatate, Maeda, I doubt they're on as much as that sort of thing. So the chances of doing what I'm trying to say here is the chances of doing a full overhaul and thinking, boom, it'll all just click into place and we'll win the league title back, I think it's extremely far-fetched and be made a far more appealing sort of road to go down purely because of the success Postecoglou's had. I think what we're seeing though right now is a fucking brilliant manager given complete autonomy on a financially sound football club. And that's how it worked with us. I don't think, firstly, you would give someone as inexperienced as Beale that sort of free rein. Secondly, they're not financially sound. And thirdly, they don't have the knowledge of all these markets where you can pick up real value for money. That's where the big difference is, David, for me. I keep saying David, so I'm just going to say David 3 more times. David. I don't know why I keep saying David at the end of everything, but sorry for that, mate.
The big difference between Ange Postecoglou and Mickey Beale that stands out is obviously experience. Ange has been managing for 30 plus years. He's been all over the world. He has the juggernaut of the City Group behind him. That scouting network, you know, he's been a part of that City Group for a long time. He's got contacts. And another thing that Ange has is he's got the reputation of being a very decent human being, and he's built up great relationships with people that respect him. I don't think you can say the same about Mickey Beale. He has obviously a good relationship with the Liverpool under-18s coaching side. You know, these are the kind of players that he might be able to look at if he's looking at ex-EPL or current EPL players on the fringes. There's obviously the contacts at Liverpool. Remember, this guy jumped ship at QPR, the first club to really give him a chance as a manager, and he jumped ship after 6 months. He's burnt bridges down there. You just have to listen to the way he's spoken about on Talk Sport if it's ever brought up by the likes of Simon Jordan. They don't respect that man for what he's done.
You're right. He's been scathing about him, to be fair.
And I think that's a viewpoint that a lot of people will have on him. You can't trust him as far as you can throw him. You don't know. Another one that springs to mind for me is when he was given the job as the Rangers manager. I wonder how much was, you know, the stipulations that were put in place that Rangers have said, right, we want you to come back, but you're not going to get as much of a say in the transfers. We've got this guy. Is that Wilson? Is that his name? He's gonna find you your players. You can have you can pick a couple of guys that you may know from down there, but predominantly we'll be picking the players for you. Whereas I think Ange had a bit of despite us not knowing much about him, obviously in the footballing world, he was obviously very well known and respected, especially if Celtic were able to find him, probably through the City Group.
See, the thing is with that though,
connections there. He could come in and say, well, if I'm coming, I'm saying you have to back me. Whereas I think when Mickey Beale's been offered it, it's like you can come, but you'll do as we say. You know.
Yeah. Remember,
Ange is lucky to, and we are lucky to have Ange,
Yeah.
and obviously Ange is lucky to have to be the manager of our club. Mickey Beale's lucky to have a club come in and take him. He's very lucky. He knows he's lucky.
David, the thing is, right? I've just said your name again, fucking hell. But the thing is with Ange as well. Ange came in and was acutely aware he was walking into a shit show. And he knew this is last minute Larry stuff. They wanted Eddie Howe. The world knew we wanted Eddie Howe. 4 months of fanning about with that. And I think when it came to Ange's like, you've got no choice but to back everything I say. Because you don't have a director of football. I've got the same coaching staff that everyone wanted out. I've got the same board that everyone wanted out, minus Peter Lawwell, apparently. And it's like, he's like, you're going to need to let me have the autonomy. So he walked into the perfect storm because it actually allowed him to go, well, you've not really got a choice but to put all your eggs in one basket with me and let me have the rule over the transfers and things like that. So it worked out really, really well. Just on that, you mentioned the City group there. Philip DeMarco comes in, big fan of the Bus. Philip, you're a legend, mate. Good to see you. And he's saying,
Philip,
is this City group link lazy or is it an asset? Because bear in mind, in the last week, we've just pulled in someone for the recruitment role at Celtic again from Man City or from the City group, one of the two. And that's going to be someone who's now got a lead role in recruitment at Celtic going forward. I can't remember the actual title of the role. I'm sure someone will tell us in the comments. Patrick McLaughlin's always good for a wee fact here and there. But yeah, so that tells you the City group links as strong as ever. Mark Lawwell, we know, is already came to Celtic on to focus solely on Celtic from the City group as well. We know Ange had links with it. Yokohama have links with it. It's going to be something that carries on, whether we like it or not. I think Celtic are unofficially a part of the City group.
Take the words out of my mouth, mate.
I think there'd be a backlash if we were announced as that because we're bigger than all that. But I think in an unofficial world, Celtic kind of are one of your, is it New York City, Melbourne Cities, Yokohama, and Man City. I think Celtic's very much in that. Obviously, we do our own thing. We're not controlled by them, but I also think we are part of that umbrella. Yeah, stronger than a relationship, I think, David.
Yeah, but
if I say David one more time.
Yes, Russell, I believe that you're absolutely correct, Russell. Anyway, Russell, let's continue to talk about Celtic, Russell. Continue, Russell. There, I've caught up. We're even. Yep. Bhoycie. Get that in there too. No, I you took the words out of my mouth. I've always had a little suspicion that there's, we have become a part of that City group without it being made, changing the names and all that kind of stuff, because that would just be suicide move by the board if they did that. But what the question was, is it lazy? Is it a lazy link? There's certainly worse footballing groups to have in your back pocket when needed, to be fair. We're dealing with arguably the best footballing side in the world right now on our side, willing to give us players, give us, swap coaches or recruitment staff, and Ange's, like I said, he's been a part of that group for a long time. You just have to look back at the when he was at Yokohama, pictured with alongside Pep Guardiola. He's I don't think Ange would have. Has he got enough say whether he can say, no, I don't want that guy for recruitment? Or has there been a discussion there where he's like, listen, if he's willing to come, I'd be more than happy to have this guy help me out on recruitment. I've dealt with him in the past, perhaps dealings at other clubs, finding me players. And obviously he's got, Ange has been quite vocal that he has a good relationship with Lowell.
Is it maybe Ange just sharing out the workload a wee bit more as well? And just going, I just need you to do, I just need to tell you what to do. I don't actually need to do it now. I've got someone there now. I can just instruct rather than him having to actually be, involved as much. You know what I mean?
And Ange has almost become an unofficial director of football, if that's the case, isn't it? Like, just kind of getting all these, like you said, he's had all that workload. He was like doing absolutely everything when it came to recruitment. I don't need you to get me coaches. I'm happy with the coaches that I've got, as well as being the manager. So yeah, I suppose maybe he does now that he's got the club where he wants it, he can now go, right, look, I've built the foundation of what I expected when I came here. I'm happy with the way it is. Let's start recruiting guys to take over these roles for me so I can fully focus on the footballing side. A little thing that interested me, which I'd seen in past interviews before from past players dealing with Ange Postecoglou, especially with the national side, was he has very little actual dealings with the players. And Matt O'Reilly made comment on that recently when he was discussing his experiences working under Ange, and he again underlined that he actually really speaks to Ange. It's not really, he tends to have the coaches do a lot of the dealings on the training pitches. The only time he tends to speak to him is maybe a little wee one-to-one chats if there's got anything obviously that needs to be discussed privately, and of course in the changing room. It's quite interesting, that kind of, would you call it old school sort of way of dealing with players? Like it's just got such an aura about him that the players just almost don't expect to get to speak to him.
Less is more with Ange, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But then when you see them, you know, he's always said, I'm not a hugger, I'm not a cuddler, I'm not going to put my arm around the players. But then you see that sort of maybe softer side of him, obviously due to us winning games, that you almost wouldn't expect to see if that's the kind of manager that he is.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's he's just got that presence about him. Do you know what I mean? I think when he speaks, you listen very, very closely to what he's saying. And then, but I think he chooses his words carefully. I don't think he's a ranter. I think his press conferences would be about 60 seconds long if he had his way, to be totally honest with you. I think if Mickey Beale's press conferences were 60 minutes long, that would suit him. But yeah, I think he is a man of a few words, and when he speaks, he's got that respect, he's got that aura, he's got that experience that people hang on to those words. And yeah, it's just very much a case of less is more with Ange. Right, okay, there's another one came in from Kimchi Strider a wee while ago. Kimchi, good to have you on the bus again, big man. Or big girl. I'm not quite sure. Do you have any concerns about moments like the build-up to Joe Hart's save yesterday? I still feel as if Celtic freeze when defending too often. Carl letting it bounce between them. I don't know. I mean, you used to talk about this morning. When things are going so well, you try and find things to critique. You're looking for, well, what is the areas that we can improve on? Well, it's a human nature thing, I suppose, a football fan nature thing, I suppose, to do so. I mean, you only need to look at, the defensive record Celtic have when Starfelt and Cameron Carpet Slippers are playing together, and it's absolutely phenomenal. I've got to be honest, I do think that we're going to concede chances. I think we've almost had it that good, and I nearly said too good. You can never have it too good, but we've got it that good that we're almost like, is that a chink in the armour? There's going to be hiccups along the way. There's going to be bumps in the road. There's going to be chances conceded. I mean, that's all this was, effectively, Kimchi. It was an opportunity that we had a goalkeeper there to make the save. Is it a real pressing concern? Not for me at this moment in time. It's not because we're perfect in any way, shape, or form. I just think the amount of chances. Did Joe Hart make any other save in the 90 minutes? Meant to be one of the toughest away fixtures on the calendar. I don't think he made another save in the game. So they must be doing something right the rest of the time. Kimchi's clarifying their comment and saying they mean it's fine against Scottish teams. I think we'll get done in Europe again defending like that. I don't know. I think we also need to remember with Europe, the Starfelt and Cameron Carter-Vickers partnership was never used once in our 6 European games. And I think when you weigh that in, that's a huge problem for Ange when he was so heavily reliant, not just last season, but this season since Starfelt got fit as well, that he needs to have those two guys at the back. They're crucial to everything that Celtic are going to do. And to not have that partnership for even 1 out of 6 games, I think the jury's very much out still, Kimchi, on how our defending will be in Europe once we've got a preferred partnership in there. And I think Ange will never use that as an excuse, but I definitely think that would have been one of the reasons he would point to say, you know, that was one of my principles last season, where Starfelt and Cameron Carter-Vickers, if they're both fit, always they play. End of story. And they did what they're still unbeaten domestically together. To not have had the chance to have played them in even 1 out of the 6 games would be a bit piss the manager off a wee bit. Do you know what I mean? And I think he wants to be afforded the opportunity to see how they do. I'm not overly concerned, if I'm honest with you. David, what about you?
Well, yeah, I'm not overly concerned either. It's because, like you say, we're not perfect. We can't be perfect. And we always, no matter how good a side we are, the opposition are always going to have that little spell where they'll have the ball and put us a wee bit under pressure. And obviously we just kind of have to deal with that. And of course, that's when you need your goalkeeper at times. That's why that's why you need a good goalkeeper, because there are going to be mistakes made on the field that, you know, good opposition players will take advantage of. Yes, obviously, Europe will be a wee bit more of a concern. But like you said, we didn't have our two starting centre-backs ever play together. And I mean, I'm just echoing what you said, because it's absolutely bang on. It's just one of those ones where the Ange will be extremely frustrated that he didn't have his 2 main men in the middle. And it's just one of the things that maybe, hopefully, we will be able to see next season, because obviously Starfelt going off injured yesterday does worry me, that he has got this niggling injury now. Whether it's, you know, I don't know if they confirmed if it's to do with the injury that he sustained on international duty in the summer, but yeah, that is more of a concern for me than our actual defending of these situations. We might not have that solid defensive unit that we've had domestically there again. That's more of a concern for me.
Aye, no, I agree with you, mate. I think it's an area of the park that we'll do the full proper test on it. Jesus, I'm boring them that much, he's away. But I think, you know, the proper test of our defensive qualities will be in Europe again next year. And I think domestically, you've got to doff your cap at how Cameron Carter-Vickers in particular, but I think also Starfelt this season I think he's really grown into being a regular centre-half for Celtic. And you know what? Last season, whilst he maybe copped a bit of flack, I actually think when you look at his record, you know, it's one to be proud of as well. So for Starfelt's point of view, he's probably had it a wee bit tight, to be fair, from fans, maybe a wee bit unfairly. And then, of course, as Kimchi rightfully, you know, further says, Kobayashi looks good as well. High hopes for him. I liked what I seen for Kobayashi as well, Kimchi. I can't deny that, mate. And I wouldn't be also overly surprised if, but, you know, let's look at, you know, when we think of the summer, as much as I'm saying, Ange might feel like he wants to get the opportunity to play Starfelt and Cameron Carter-Vickers at the back in Europe because he didn't in the group stage this season. It wouldn't surprise me if we sold Starfelt for £6-7 million in the summer and brought in another centre-back. I think that's not because I'm advocating for that, but I just think this summer our eyebrows might raise, David, at times with some of the departures that could happen. I think there will be undeniably heroes that will leave this summer as well, and not because it'll be out of desperation to sell players, or we're forcing them out, or we're just accepting the first bid that comes in. I just think the nature of how Ange's model is going to work is the first sign of discontent, or if there's a bid that comes in from a bigger league and he thinks it's a great opportunity for the player, he'll let the club negotiate a fee, he'll let them go, and he'll be focused on the next target. I think this summer will be a bit of a shock for Celtic fans. I think when you look back, January's teed us up for what to expect this summer. If you told me that we would sell 2 first-team regulars in January and come out of January probably looking a wee bit stronger than what we did the first half of the season, which I think is a fair point, I would have laughed. I would have said that's impossible. And yet here we are, you know, top scorer for last season, Giacomakis in the league. gone in January. Juranovic, you know, the Croatian international World Cup specialist, gone. And yet, right backs never looked so strong. You know, Kyogo's never looked so deadly in front of goal. And we've got another striker brought in. I think this summer we could see just a slightly larger scale of what we've seen in January. I think it could be an eye opener for a lot of fans this summer.
Ange made it quite clear again recently that we will be aggressive in the. He keeps using the word aggressive in the summer transfer window, whether that means signing more players aggressively or in terms of flipping. I want to say flipping players to help.
Yeah.
I don't want to say lose a player. If we do lose a player or flip a player, it's purely for the benefit of Ange's project. And like I seen a comment there, maybe from Monty saying that Starfelt can be improved upon. Yes, out of the two centre halves, yes, I'm a big advocate for Starfelt, as I've made it quite clear on here in the past. But if you're going to sell one who's, you know, you're going to pick Starfelt, he's shown enough that he is more than capable of being a very strong defender and a very attractive player for clubs elsewhere. And if we can improve in that position to be more competitive in European football, then that's maybe a sacrifice that has to be made. I want to see Ange. We'll just let discuss that. I'd like to see Ange be able to have the opportunity of using Starfelt and CCV in our starting 11 in European football. However, I'm also not naive enough to think that, well, maybe Kobayashi is the long-term successor for next season. And I said before, Yakimakis was brought in, and I think Ange brought him in because he knew he was a good player, but he had his eye on someone else that he would rather get. But this guy will do the job for me just now, and he'll be able to make a little bit of profit or a lot of profit, or maybe just get our money back until we get the guy that I would rather have for the long-term plans. So it's just something that we're going to have to get used to. That's how clubs operate now when they are successful. By being aggressive in the transfer market, and just made it clear that's what he wants to do. So we're just going to have to buckle up. And it's funny though, because I think it was at Brown Warrior that had said, you know, selling our assets isn't necessarily the best plan moving forward in European football. You obviously want to build a tight-knit unit over a sustained amount of years to really have a crack at European football. Now, there is an argument for that when you look at how Rangers did in the Europa League a couple of seasons ago now. Those guys that were in that squad had been a part of that team for a long time. However, then you see the other side of the coin, whereas they're now, these guys are now moving on for nothing. And so there's got to be a balance. And I think Ange, in his mind, has found that balance by signing multiple very good players that anyone can come in and not affect the starting lineup and almost soften or cushion the blow of when one moves on.
Definitely. There's a wee bit of speculation in the chat as to who could go. There was someone saying
subscribe to that as well. Brown Warrior
and O'Reilly, and then Brown Warrior saying he could see Abada going. I think definitely either way, there will be guys that you associate with the first team that will depart. It's not a panic stations thing. I'm quite relaxed about it. I think we've been warmed up to this new way by this new sort of way of operating in the transfer market by what we've just seen in January, and I think we're all quite content with what happened in January. It is exciting times. David, that's been an hour and 10 minutes. We're going to call it there. It has been a fantastic wee off-the-cuff evening, open mic nights. Thanks to everyone who's brought in so many good comments. We talked about strips, our favourite Celtic moments, and then naturally ended up talking about current affairs and potentially even the summer's transfers deal. And thanks to all your comments that have led us on that journey tonight on the bus. We do appreciate it. Remember, do hit the like button before you go. If you've not subscribed yet, what are you doing? Hit subscribe. If you want to buy a Bhoycie Bus shirt, sound. If you want to buy a pie and you're feeling peckish, go to piesports.com and use BUS1888 to get 12.5% off. Right, we'll call it there. I hope everyone's had a great weekend. If you're back to work tomorrow, fuck it, it'll be the weekend again soon. See you later.
I mean, you've all that stuff at the start. You know, they won't be playing Tina Turner on the coach on the way home, will they?
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan. He's a Rangers puppet. He's a cheerleader. That's what he is.